Uh, that you know what that is, Hyde? You're not flossing enough because if you go to the dentist, that's always the complaint. One of my best friends is a dentist, actually. So
floss more, and water pick. Can you floss? You need to floss more.
If you don't like the floss, get the water pick. And it's like it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, it's like going to the doctors. They always find something wrong. They always find something wrong.
What I don't like about the doctors is the blood tests, which come back and run me a $400 bill. I didn't ask for this.
$400 bill.
Yeah, it's.
I just had my blood. I haven't got a $400 bill.
Really?
Doesn't your insurance take care of it?
I would think so, but then they're always sending me this bill, the $400 bill for blood tests, and I'm like, I'm not.
That's the thing. I just make them keep sending it, and then eventually thinking the insurance will pay. Then if they don't pay after about okay, I guess I have to pay.
No. I don't even pay. And in fact, this home buying process recently, I discovered there's never been a medical debt put on my record. I'm like, all right, let's just ride it out.
Keep doing it. Whatever you're doing, it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Now watch, like $10,000 of medical bills will show up on my debt in the next like 2 months. Yes, sir. $97. That's kind of insulting.
People.
Oh, yeah. Let me take my sip.
The weekly sip.
All right, hold on. Let me read one more time. All right. I'm ready to go. All right. Well, the Houston win brought some relief. The Ravens win provided a pleasant surprise. The Jets win delivered some redemption. And the Carolina win confirmed everything this organization has been preaching all season, including during these 7-game win streaks. It actually works. Here we are, South Florida. The Dolphins have delivered 4 straight victories. They're on the verge of becoming the NFL's hottest team if they beat the New York Giants on Sunday and the Patriots lose to the Buffalo Bills this week. But it's been a wild year of 2021. And the important question that we want to ask here on X's and Omar is, what have we learned from this Dolphin season? Dave, I am going to bring you to the podium and present to the class. What lessons have you learned about this Dolphins season?
Don't start 1-7. Do not start 1-7. All right. All those games that you're piling up losses, Jacksonville, Atlanta, winnable games in December. All those games matter. If you're just 2-6 instead of 1-7, you're 3-5. It's a bad start, but it doesn't sink your season. Okay. And you know, I don't know if we've learned this because we've done this many times with the Dolphins. Start slow, come on stronger, and say, okay, we'll get them next year.
But we've never done it with this level of expectation. I think that's the hardest part about this season, and always the part that makes me uncomfortable. I remember we were doing X's and Omar's, and it was after the draft, and Brian Flores had told Peter King, like, we're ready to pivot. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, wait. Like, hold on here. You're not ready to pivot. But they were adamant that we're ready to pivot. And I think that there are lessons that were learned from that. And in fact, I wrote a column, and I wrote a column that ran in today's paper. You know, and I've said this on X's and Omar's, and I truly do believe this. If you get the Will Fuller PI call that puts you at the 1 in overtime and allows you to win that game in overtime, because it was a questionable call, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it was, but every team has these, Omar.
Exactly.
You don't think the Patriots are sitting there thinking, how did we fumble at the 9-yard line and let the Dolphins beat us in game one?
True.
I mean, some go with you and some go against you. You know?
But if they had beaten the Raiders, if they had taken care of business against the Falcons, if they had beaten Jacksonville, this team would be the hottest team in the NFL. They'd be 8-4. And it's just those bounces. Sometimes you got to be able to finish games. And I think we learned last season, they got those bounces. Things went their way last season, whereas this season, they haven't gone their way until recently.
Well, the Patriots game, that went their way. But you're right in general that it's their turnover margin, I believe, it was -1, I believe, for the season right now. Whereas last year it was plus whatever. They led the league. I think it was plus 19 or 18, something like that.
Yeah, it was some ridiculous level of. And to his credit, I think that, and I've said this on X's and Omar's, and we'll continue to say this, and I think we both learned this. This is a much different team with Tua as the starter as opposed to Jacoby Brissett. And it's not just necessarily the talent around, it's the execution of the quarterback. And so I think right now with the RPO game, we're seeing it grow. We're seeing it blossom. We're seeing it start to flower. Even though we don't have the weaponry to make it work or an offensive line that can be counted on, you're starting to see the benefits of it. And hopefully it continues to be something that this team will build on and will continue to build off.
All right, Omar, our first question comes from Sure to Rain. What are your thoughts on why it takes this team until November to start playing winning football?
Well, let's start with what I just mentioned, which is the caliber of the quarterbacks. We have both realized and come to the conclusion, Jacoby Brissett, even though he was a starter with the Indianapolis Colts, he's not an NFL starter. Tua is an NFL starter. Now, the debate is whether he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Okay, we don't need an answer in year 2 of his career. He just finished 16 NFL starts. We can wait a little bit for that answer, but he's a proven NFL starter, and he's pretty good now as a young quarterback. So let's start there. He wasn't available early in the season, where Jacoby had to play games for the rib injury and then the hand injury. But then, I think also the defense. When you play the first month of the season without Raekwon Davis, who is a very important pivotal piece in terms of helping you stop the run, that hurts you. When you play a month where both of your starting cornerbacks, 2 of your elite players on the team, and Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, are playing with growing injuries, that hurts you. You play early portions of the season where young players like Javon Holland and Byron Jones are making mistakes and not playing as well as they are at the midway point of the season. That's going to hurt you, and it's going to lead to big plays. So I think this team is growing up a little bit in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that, but compounding the injuries was what was going on with the offensive coaching system. And we saw this coming out of training camp. It was a play calling by committee because they didn't want to say that Charlie Fry was calling the plays early on. And then Godsey was calling the plays. He got switched to him. And you have dual coordinators. You had 3 people or 4 people calling plays, whatever. You needed a flow chart, and even then it was confusing. And it's anytime a coach says he doesn't want to tell you who's calling the plays, alarms should go off. Something's wrong here, okay? Because that's just not the way it's done, okay? And so compounding all these other issues, Jacoby Brissett, when he was in there, remember, it was a mess on offense too. I thought coming out of training camp, and I've said this before, that watching him in practice, I thought he's throwing the same balls as Tua in practice.
And I agree with you. He was.
But the manner they're running the offense it's different. But compounding that to me was what was going on with that offensive. You can't come out with confusion on stuff like that.
Brian Flores will go to his grave not telling you who is calling plays on offense.
He doesn't need to tell me. I know who was, and now George Godsey has been for a while, and then the offense, you can see it. They're using motion more with Albert Wilson and Jalen Waddle. It looks, as you said, you're seeing some things for the RPO that are okay. We're building on this, and we're making it make more sense. So, okay, Omar. Ricardo asks if Miami's going to keep this momentum going. Which currently inactive player would make the biggest impact on his return?
By inactive, I'm assuming he's referring to the players on IR, Michael Dieter, Wolf Fuller, Devontae Parker, Malcolm Brown, Greg Mans. Well, I think it starts with the fact that you got to get some centers. I mean, playing your fifth, I think it's playing your fifth center in a game for the season, which the Dolphins had to do with Cameron Tom, is not a good thing. When George Godsey said to me, I think it was 2 weeks ago, because I'm hammering him about the run game, and the run game has been a disaster all season. I'm hammering him about the run game, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but we're playing four centers. Like we're on our fourth center," and it's true. It's been a major point. Now, if they can get Michael Dieter back from his leg and foot injury. And he's practiced last week. He's going to practice this week to determine where he is, how he looks. I'm sure that won't be decided until maybe Friday game time in terms of how he looks, where his durability is. Maybe it's this week, maybe it's next week. He's definitely coming back this season. That's going to help the offense. Will Fuller, today Brian Flores said in a press conference that he's had multiple breaks of a bone. Okay. Last I checked, it takes a bone 6 weeks to heal. This is now on week, I believe, 8 or 9 for Will Fuller. I'm not sure he wants to play football. And that was out there when he needed a week off in week 2. And I don't know what's going on with that situation. But Devontae Parker's starting to practice again. We all know the Devontae Parker story. If he practices too hard, he's going to hurt himself again. So let's not all get our hopes up. Maybe Devontae will give us 3 more games this season.
Yeah, I answer the question, which player, I'd say Will Fuller. If you could pick one to come back, if you're picking one to say. Okay,
yeah, I mean, if you are picking one, that would be one. You got
the magic. Who's coming back? I would say Will Fuller, because he's going to open up. He can make the defense at least think you're going to throw vertical, okay? I'm not sure you're going to, but he's going to stretch it, and all of a sudden you're going to have space.
Yeah, he's going to open things up for Gesicki. He is going to open things up for Gesicki.
That's how I say. Okay, same old LOL Fins wants to know, did Greer save his job with this year's draft?
I don't know about that. I mean, we said a month ago during the 7-game stretch. Now, did we feel like Steve Ross is going to fire people? No. Did we say he should fire people? Yes. And I even though we're looking right now at Jalen Waddle on pace to potentially set the NFL record for receptions in a season, he's on pace to shatter Anquan Bolden's record of 101 receptions. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to continue to catch at this volume that he's catching right now, and he will do it. And not just in 17 games, he'll do it in 16 games, which means the record is legit. But Jalen Phillips, we all knew he's super talented. We watched him at University of Miami, and now he's heating up. They're asking him to do a very specific thing, which is go get quarterback. Not, edge set, not, you got to fill your gap in a run assignment. We need you to drop back in coverage because we want you to be a linebacker. They're saying, see ball, go get ball. Or see quarterback, go get quarterback. And he's doing it. And right now, he's blossoming. And hopefully they continue to allow him to keep things simple and go get quarterback. And Javon Holland has been playing well for about a good month. To me, it's about his health, whether or not he can stay healthy. But if you're going to look at the rest of this draft, because the draft isn't just 3 players, Liam Eichenberg, there's nobody worse in the NFL as a starting left tackle than Liam Eichenberg. And while I know you drafted him to play right tackle, he's playing left tackle because your left tackle was worse than he was. So and is now playing guard. And then Hunter Long, which to me was always the head scratcher. You've got, 5 tight ends on your roster, including 3 that are pretty decent NFL starters. I understood Hunter Long was for the future because Durham and Mike Gesicki are free agents at the end of this season. But did you really need to draft a tight end right that minute, right there in the 3rd round? My answer was no. But they did it anyway. Instead of taking a running back, Michael Carter was there. You should have taken Michael Carter. Michael Carter is probably one of the best offensive weapons in the AFC East. But so I can't sit here and say just because your 3 top rookies are performing, you're off the hook for a bad draft. No, you're on the hook because your offensive line sucks and you've been building that for 3 years.
I mean, that's ultimately where I was going, Omar. They went into this. All pressure was on Chris Greer. All right. He had the opportunity of a lifetime for a general manager. I talked to other guys who had been general managers, and they were like, oh, my God. An owner who says, I'll come back in 3 years and see if you're winning. And here's a bucket load of draft picks. Go do it. And so ultimately, Chris Greer is going to be judged on Tua. All right.
Yes.
All these other things are, I agree, they're very important. And they add what's going on with the rookie class now helps Chris Greer. But he's going to be judged ultimately on this, and we'll get into this later, but this whole rebuild was structured around getting a franchise quarterback.
It was, Dave.
That was when you talk to the people, why are you doing this? Because it hasn't worked to get a franchise quarterback.
Tank for Tua, Dave. Tank for Tua. Did you believe in Tank? You didn't. I know you didn't.
I didn't like the philosophy, but whatever. They went down the road and we're coming out the other side. And anyways, right now we're right where we went into it. We're right with a little younger team, but right where you went into it, which is somewhere around 500. Okay,
you're 7-9, baby. 7-10 this year. We'll see.
All right, plenty of football insiders are trying to identify the catalyst for Miami's turnaround this season. One of the leading suspects happens to be the quarterback who spent the first month of the season sidelined by rib injury. Tua Tagovailoa has returned as the team's starting quarterback following a ribs and finger injury and has been heating up. Following Sunday's game, which was his fourth 100-plus passer performance in 8 games, Tua has the same passer rating of 94.7 as Kansas City star Patrick Mahomes. That's mind-boggling to read, but it's true. But both are tied for 17th in the NFL in that statistical ranking. Tua is completing 70.5% of his passes for 7.3 yards per attempt. He's thrown for 1,701 yards with 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's been sacked 10 times in 8 games that he's played. In his 16 NFL starts, he's produced a 9-7 record and a 90.5 passer rating. Omar, has Tagovailoa proven he can lead this franchise to wins and the playoffs?
Wins, yes, absolutely. I think the efficiency that he plays with is sensational. It was pace setting in the NFL till Mac Jones did it better the next year. In terms of efficiency as a quarterback at Alabama, he was a pace setter. They teach the RPO using Tua's film on all levels of football. So he is a master at this specific offense. The question is, how well can this coaching staff expand this offense? How well can the GM get weaponry to build around this offense? Can they build a running game that, obviously, if you play an RPO, the first word of RPO is run, you idiots. Which, excuse my frustration, Najee Harris should have been the pick, but he's not here. To me, he can win. Can he lead this team to the playoffs? I think that depends on everybody else around him. And that depends on, he can lead this team to a winning record. But the support staff has to be good. But right now, if you just look at where he is as a quarterback, just completed his first full NFL season, 16 starts. The statistics, the record, they're better than Ryan Fitzpatrick was in his 16 starts with the Miami Dolphins. We're talking about a 17-year veteran.
Oh, Omar.
Listen, we both have respect for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do not do this, Dave. Are you going to do this again? Are you going to disrespect Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Well, I'm also going to say, if we're going to talk about the talent around Tua, the talent around Ryan Fitzpatrick at the start was semi-pro football. I mean, it was awful. So,
wow. Listen, I'm not going to defend the talent of the 2019 team, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is responsible for Mike Gesicki blossoming.
Yes.
And he's responsible for Myles Gaskin blossoming. He's responsible for this offensive line that was trash, looking respectable in 2019. No, they didn't look respectable. They were the worst offensive line in franchise history.
In 2020, he did. And give Tua that. This line last week against a good Carolina defense looked serviceable. I mean,
yes.
They had 2 early sacks on him, and you're thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a long day. And then they were okay. I mean, not great, but they were okay. And then he moved in the pocket.
The ball out his hand like this.
Yeah. Look, Tua right now is a point guard, a very good point guard. Okay, who's open? Boom, get the ball to him quick. Jalen Waddle over the middle. Why Carolina let Jalen Waddle roam free over the middle is speaks well of Jalen Waddle for finding the open spaces and for Tua and getting the ball to him quickly. But Tua to me is a point guard right now and a good one. You think at the top, the Chris Pauls at the top of their game. Who's open? Bam, bam. I'm going to read that. He's coming to the line. He's has 2 options probably in his head because the way the defense is set up, and he's finding them quick because they don't want him holding the ball for a lot of reasons, and they're all things that can go bad. And so he's running this offense very well, very well.
It works when you have the lead or the game is close. It's not going to work when you're trailing big.
Well, remember, they were down to Atlanta, and he came back with 2 fourth
He
quarters.
did.
So, but I agree with you in general that the short, be the point guard offense, it has to change if you're behind, and then, things will get interesting.
He's missing a couple of pieces. Obviously,
yeah.
everybody knows that. But you do need another receiver out there. And for whatever reasons, they never wanted to be Mac Hollins. They don't trust Preston Williams. Hell, he's being used as an H-back now, which I don't have to object to because it's better than using Mike Gesicki as an H-back. So I kind of get it, but it's just a slap in the face. Mike Gesicki is a split end right now. Who is he going to run past in the NFL, defended by a cornerback?
Well, he's going to have a matchup height.
Yeah, but it's not, and teams are like, okay, who do we put out there to defend him? It's really this odd dimension of how do we defend Mike Gesicki? But Mike's the one thing I will respect about Mike is he's not a I need the ball kind of guy. So he's taken one aspect of the game, the opening up the field for everybody else, just kind of being a decoy out there. But my thing is, if Devontae or Will Fuller were out there and he could actually serve his role of being the matchup threat, and then you get Jalen Waddle to do what he needs to get done. He's a slot receiver. I never really agreed with them making him a slot receiver, but now I kind of see their vision. Hell, he's about to set a rookie record. So, I look like
his favorite receiver at Alabama in his rookie year with the Dolphins was a slot receiver. He 40% about boom, boom. So he's comfortable with Waddle. They know that seemed like the perfect place for him, Omar.
You know what? He's never said he's comfortable with Waddle. And
there's something going on there.
There is something going on there. That's
whatever.
So weird.
On the field, they are in this synchronicity there. Boom, boom. There he is. Okay, he's going to run that. We're seeing this thing. That's all that matters. That's all you know.
But there's something there. It's weird, Dave. Let's admit it's weird. It's a little weird, isn't it? Like he got uninvited to the Thanksgiving dinner.
Look, they've been both throwing up softballs. Oh, good friends, good communication with Tua, and they'll take it just a slight detour. You're like, huh? That's
yeah.
So whatever. That's they work on the field and very well together.
It is true.
Okay, Omar, Dolphin for life wants to know: has anything changed with the play calling, or are they just executing better?
Yeah, I think George Godsey is, as Dave Hyde has pointed out, has full autonomy of play calling at the present moment. I think that could change at any time, knowing Brian Flores. I also think there's been an adamance to the run game. And as I've said on X's and Omar and in column, I look at this as these co-coordinators, George Godsey and Eric Stutzville. One is the pass game coordinator. One is the run game coordinator. And they have been adamant. And I admire this. And it's the first time in Brian Flores' career that he's been diligent, consistent with we will run the ball. Even if we do not have success, like last week where they averaged, 2.9 yards per attempt, but still managed to get to 2.8 yards per attempt, but still managed to get to 111 rushing yards. And in fairness to them, that was a lot of end the game, 4-minute offense, kill the clock. Teams know we're going to run, and we're still going to run, and they're managing to get first downs. So that is a big deal in the NFL. Now, if you think about it from the run game standpoint, and I think that's the key to this offense's success. I've always thought that that's the key to the offense's success. I'm excited about what Philip Lindsay can do.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by what Philip Lindsay can do. One, he stuck his head in there and provided a block that nobody else on this team, maybe outside of Malcolm Brown, could have done that allowed the Jalen Waddle play.
The 57-yard pass, the little slant over the middle, 10 yards.
Yes.
But you're right. Philip Lindsay made that block that allowed that to happen.
And if you think about it, how many Pro Bowlers are on this team, Dave Hyde?
1.
2 now.
2.
Philip Lindsay is a former Pro Bowler.
Oh, okay. For a running back, that goes quick, that former Pro Bowler.
Yeah. You know, and I really want to, this is where I miss being in the locker room, if I'm just going to be transparent, because, we get who they give us on a daily basis. And the team, they work very hard to make sure we get people that we want, but you never know when you're going to get them. And it's the same thing as the locker room. But if I were in the locker room, I would have the opportunity to go one-on-one with Philip Lindsay and really just find out, like, what happened in Houston. Like, why all of a sudden did they just decide that, are they trying to just avoid your contract? And he already explained, this has been a humbling circumstance and situation for him. I love, and you know this, Dave, I love the hungry NFL player. I love the humbled NFL player. The guy who, this is my last chance to get a meal. I need to feed my family. And Philip Lindsay is playing like he knows, which is his reality, that my future in the NFL depends on how I perform right now. And I love that for a 5-week stretch.
And you see this offense searching for someone. They Duke Johnson, last week they brought him up. Now Philip Lindsay, and Philip Lindsay looked like he ran 8 yards, 9 yards. He had a little different style.
Yeah, it's that outside run.
Yes.
That outside zone. I've always loved the outside zone. I think, I don't know what can save this line, so I'll just put that out there. I have no idea. But the one thing we haven't tried is the outside zone. That's one thing we haven't done because nobody really has the skill sets to run it. Well, now Philip Lindsay has the skill sets to run it, and it might work. Eric Stutzville is supposedly, he was the Denver Broncos run game guy for a decade? What did they feast on? The outside zone. So I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I haven't been excited about anything Dolphins related since the beginning of the season, probably since Tua got his ribs broke. Philip Lindsay, I thank you for bringing me excitement.
All right. David has a good one, Omar, and this is going to be it'll be interesting. This is what's playing out the rest of the year to me. If Tua continues to play at this level, will the Dolphins still see Deshaun Watson as an upgrade and pursue him in a trade?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer because one, we have to see how the season plays out. We have to see how he continues to perform. And I say this and Tuanon, which is what the media has now refers to as the Tua fan club, which is just a rabid, very short-sighted group of people, worse than the Patience Brigade. Let me put that out there.
It's the Tebow Brigade brought to a different quarterback.
Yeah, but I guess so. It's very disturbing, but they don't understand. There are shortcomings to his game. There's shortcomings to who he is as a quarterback. Based on what I've seen now for 16 starts, I can conclude he's not going to have a very long NFL career. That's just, put it however you want. I hope he proves me wrong. I love Tua. I've always loved Tua. I think he will be a great quarterback in 2023. But do I see him playing in 2030? Not really.
Yeah, but Omar, his injuries aren't tied together. I've said this before.
He's fragile.
I just don't believe people are structured that way. Now, does he get?
You don't believe people are structured brittle?
I believe people get too big of hits on them. Okay, and that's Nick Saban talked about this coming out of Alabama.
Okay.
We've seen him take some big hits. Okay, so that's what he's got to be careful of, because anybody's ribs are going to be brittle if he gets pounded into the ground like he was by Buffalo. So that's to me what he's got to be careful as far as. But look, if he continues to play at this level, if he plays like he has the last 2-3 weeks, I would hope. First of all, I'm off the Deshaun Watson trade until that whole 22 sexual allegations clears up. I as an owner, if I was my team, I can't bring that on right now. Okay. And if Tua's playing this level, we'll let this ride. We'll let it play out.
What makes me uncomfortable, and I eventually was ultimately, yes, go for the Deshaun Watson, even with the 22 sexual assault allegations, because I understand where the owner is. He's desperate. But it's a desperate move. But, my ultimate thought is get the elite quarterback and begin building around him.
That was the whole plan here.
To get the franchise quarterback and hope he develops to the elite quarterback. That's the plan. But Tua, we don't know if he can be elite. We know Deshaun Watson is elite. And to my point, I don't care what Tua does. Tua can be the NFL MVP right now in the second half of the year. If Aaron Rodgers says, hey, Miami, I'm interested. Tua, it was nice knowing you. I'm going to make a run at a Super Bowl for the next 3 years. I don't care. It makes no difference to me.
Look, if Tua is the MVP of the second half of the year, which he's not going to be, if he's at that level where he's lifted the whole team and carrying it, Dan Marino style, which that's not who he is. But you're not going to make the trade for Aaron Rodgers in that. You're just not going to do it. You're not. First of all, he's not going to come here.
Who? I would. I don't. If Tua leads this team to the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers says, "Hey, Miami, I'd like to make you my home for the next 3-4 years," bye Tua.
Okay. I mean, I think we've gone off the tracks. And
the question was about whether or not they want to upgrade from Tua, and
I would agree with you, because to me, sports is the here and the now. Okay, it's the here and the now.
Yes,
and
you always preach about the
Dolphins are always living 2 years down the line. Well, we're going to be good in 2 years. Okay, well, okay, maybe, but why not be good? Try to be good now.
Yeah.
So
If you just hear me out on the Aaron Rodgers thing, is Aaron Rodgers on the same level as Tom Brady? My answer to that question is yes. Tom Brady turned a 7-19, a repeat 7-19, into a Super Bowl title winner. Aaron Rodgers, think about what he would be. Think about what Green Bay would be. They're the best team in the NFL right now. Supposedly, they're going to get a divorce at the end of the year. They're obviously going to have to trade Aaron Rodgers because they structured the contract so they trade him. I'm sorry. I don't care who you have at quarterback. Every NFL team should be putting in an offer.
I can't disagree with you on that one, Omar, because he's still, you'd have what, 3 years? I mean, 4 years? Who knows?
Yeah.
He might quit after the trade too. He's a little quirky, but there's no debating his talent. All right. Daniel Rivas says, you've been a Tua supporter for 3 years now, Omar. Is he becoming the quarterback you thought he'd be faster than that 2023 prediction?
No, I think he's doing exactly what I saw at Alabama that made me absolutely obsessed with him. The efficiency, the pocket presence, the accuracy, the anticipation. I think right now, if clearly he needs a run game, that's obvious. He needs better tackles, that's obvious, and he needs a receiver who can run a crisp slant. And
he has one. Waddle runs a nice slant. He did that all last Sunday.
I want a better slant. I want a big body weapon that can run a slant.
Want big body. Okay, I get that.
I want, and I don't think Devontae's a very good route runner, but I want Preston Williams with not all the murkiness going on in Preston Williams. And
is that going to happen? There's the whole receiving core has played into the fears when they came into the season. All the fears, the injury fears, the what's going on fears,
the maturity fears,
everything. And so
it has been a hot disaster. And it just and
I come back to Omar. I mean, last week I said there's one guy you are sure will be back next year. One guy on the offense. Okay, now there's probably 4 or 5. You can really say, okay, they're not going to be able to. And Tua would be 2. Jalen Waddle's 1. Thomas would be. There's a couple linemen we can do and say, okay, look, they're not going to be able to upgrade everybody.
Robert Hunt, maybe? Yeah, Michael Dieter will be back.
But the receiving core, other than Waddle, I'm sorry. You're going out to the shelf and just pulling, new names off the shelf.
You know what's funny that you said that, and I used to be very adamant about you could not get rid of Devontae Parker because he's going to be paid like an NFL backup next season. Devontae's on the books for $5.6 million next year. And at this point, when I realized that I'm only going to be able to count on Devontae Parker for maybe 9 games a year, I might move on.
Well, the other part is you can't practice with him. I mean, in training, he remember all training camp, the question was, oh, will this be affected? And to his credit, he said, no, this won't affect anything. But of course, chemistry, understanding the offense, how's he going to read this situation, all that matters. And so, I would think that'd be the number one area they got to upgrade it. Well, or the line.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that a little bit in the next segment, where I've got some names for you, Dave. I've got some names. The Miami Dolphins happen to be playing a team with a mirror image of themselves on defense in the Giants. Joe Judge and Brian Flores are off the same coaching tree, having worked with Bill Belichick. I said Bill Parcells. Look at me. Having worked with Bill Belichick in New England together since 2012. And not only that, but Brian Flores gift drafted his defensive coordinator and gave him to Joe Judge in Patrick Graham, who is one of his homeboys. They are close friends. Graham, who is from that New York area, has family ties to that New York area. He wanted to return to the Giants, and Brian Flores didn't want to stand in the way of his homeboy doing what he wanted to do to make his family happy, so he let him go. It's you know that whole saying where if you love something, let it go, and if it comes back to you, it's meant to be. I'm not even gonna. I didn't think Patrick Graham was a very good defensive coordinator, and I think Josh Boyer's done a better job. Let me just put that out there. Patrick Graham, if you had any feelings about that, oh well.
He's done pretty good with the Giants, so
he has, and he's lost a lot of weight, which is very admirable. I'm always impressed by people who lose a lot of weight. Shows the dedication and commitment that I do not have. But Judge, he's got a 10-17 record since becoming the head coach of the New York Giants. But in fairness to him and his staff, they haven't always had Saquon Barkley, who is arguably one of the best tailbacks and talents in the NFL. Last year, Barkley tore his ACL. This year, he's been battling an ankle injury, which he's working his way back from. Last week, he gained 40 rushing yards, big deal, on 13 carries in a 13-7 win against the Eagles. He also caught 4 passes for 13 yards. Not major numbers, but they kind of hint that he's on his way back. Last week, Miami locked up Christian McCaffrey, limiting him to 35 yards on 10 carries before we learned that he suffered a season-ending ankle injury and was headed to IR. And the question I have, Dave, is Miami going to be able to have the similar success against Saquon Barkley as they had against McCaffrey?
Better success. And you know why? The Giants' offensive line might be worse than the offensive line. It is bad. It is bad, Omar. And they fired Jason Garrett as their offensive coordinator. Their offensive line's bad. They scored 13 and 10 points the last 2 weeks. So don't tell me Daniel Jones, they're going to miss him. Well, you miss any starting quarterback, but it's not like they're racking up points or playing well with him. Okay, so yeah, I think the Dolphins off defensive line, this is a case. They're rising, and I've said for a while, this should be a good defensive line, and they're coming through. They're developing now. I think they can dominate this game. They can dominate.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think that while the Giants' offensive line hasn't played well, let's not pretend like Daniel Jones is a superstar. He's not very good as an NFL quarterback. Giants fans should be at the point where they can admit that to themselves. And Andrew Thomas and Will Henderson and Nate Solder and Billy Price, I would trade for them right now. Take them all. You want to swap lines? Let's do it.
Look at all the analytics of what they say about all that line. Look at all the people covering. They talk about that line the way we talk about the Dolphins.
They don't look at this line. And they are averaging 3.8 yards per carry.
We're going to see a nice up close and personal on Sunday. And
we will see a nice up close and personal. And in fairness to the Dolphins defense, they are heating up. So, this will be a good test for this Dolphins defense. No question about it. But
one other issue, Omar, the running back issue, which you slipped in your love for Najee Harris earlier in the show, okay? And this is why you don't draft running backs this high.
Okay, are you really going to do this now?
Look at it. Look, Christian McCaffrey, Michael Carter got hurt the game before. Saquon Barkley, he's always hurt, unfortunately. And this is the fear of getting, Bush putting a lot of investment in a running back. Okay, so who would you rather? Okay, right now, Jalen Phillips or Najee Harris?
Najee Harris all day, every day, because no, I don't.
If you come up,
it's never been about whether I believe in Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is my top-rated pass rusher. I believe that Najee Harris is special and would open up. Right now, you put Najee Harris on this team, they've got a top 15 offense. No doubt in my mind, with Tua as a quarterback. And even with this disaster of offensive line.
How about if they had Michael Carter on this offense?
They would have been better.
Fourth round pick. There's for you. Third, fourth.
Okay, well, since you're going to take that stab at me, I am going to say, look at the amount of quarterbacks that have been injured. Now, are we going to say we're not going to draft quarterbacks in the first round because they're all injured? Daniel Jones is now injured. Tua's been injured twice this season. Let's go throughout the league.
It's harder to find a top caliber quarterback than a top caliber running back. I guess that would be my answer there. But I didn't want to take that detour. I just wanted to take a little jab at you, Omar, on the running back thing. But okay. How would the switch from Jones change your game plan if you're Josh Boyer? And in other words, if Mike Glennon is the starter.
Yeah, Mike Glennon is expected to start. He's got a 6-12 record as an NFL starter. Very pedestrian numbers. The only benefit of Mike Glennon is he doesn't take a lot of sacks. I think that's because he gets the ball out of his hands very quickly. I box everything in, take the shorter routes, have my cornerbacks jam at the line of scrimmage, and force Mike Glennon to do big boy throws. He's already going to throw the ball quickly, so all this amoeba blitz package stuff, I'm not necessarily certain it's going to hit home. This might be a game you dial that down and say, hey, Mike, we'd like to see you throw the football.
Yeah, my question, I guess, and I'm looking this up as I speak to back it up, is, yeah, Daniel Jones runs the ball. He's more, you don't have to worry about that with Mike Glennon's. You know, I remember somebody called Bernie Kosar an ostrich running like as if he was on Quaaludes. And Mike Glennon gives the same idea of, okay, he's not going to, you don't have to worry about that. And so that can affect too
Daniel Jones has attempted 62 rushing attempts, 298 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, 5.8 a carry, 5.8 a carry. That's pretty nice. So you don't have to worry about with Mike Glennon.
Yeah, ostrich running football. And you know what I thought about when Mike Glennon became a starter? He's the guy that got Russell Wilson benched at North Carolina State. That always stands out to me. And
who was the coach who went to Boston? The other thing was they gave him the big contract in Chicago, I believe. So people have banked on him, and
no way. They clearly shouldn't be banking on him. He's. I would probably rather have Jacoby Brissett as my quarterback, obviously.
All right, Albert has a question, Omar. A few weeks ago, the roster was a dumpster fire. True for defense. I'm still in agreement with the offense.
Offensive line is a dumpster fire.
And the receiving core.
And I don't think the running back core is a dumpster fire. I just don't think you have the pieces that you need. You made the point that in very specific roles, they're very good. Collectively, maybe they're decent. I'm sorry, that's not good enough for me, running back wise. But the defense, I've never thought the defense was a dumpster fire. I think they're missing one linebacker, but I think Duke Riley is really stepping up and is kind of filling that void right now. And Jerome, say what you want about Jerome, and I didn't think he was playing well early in the season. He had a knee injury. He's probably going to finish leading the team in tackles. But he isn't a problem. So, I think he's one of those guys that started to play better as the season progressed. A long list of guys who started to play better as the season progressed. Andrew Van Ginkel, Jalen Phillips, Raekwon Davis. Christian Wilkins had always been playing well. Sealer's playing well. Emmanuel Ogba's hitting home on more sacks. So there's a long list of guys who've gotten to play, who are starting to play better. But, dumpster fire, I don't know if I ever said they were a dumpster fire from a roster standpoint. I think offensive line, yes, dumpster fire. But
yeah,
I
think the question with the defense was settling into what they want to do and finding how to use the two young.
But people expect them to just pick up where they left off last year, and you can't do that without the exact same pieces. And even then, when you do have the exact same pieces, Eric Rowe isn't playing the same way he played last year. Xavier Howard isn't playing the same way that he played last year. Jerome Baker isn't playing the same way that he played last year. You don't have the same pieces at defensive end. You don't have the same pieces at outside linebacker. So how are you kind of going to expect them to pick up where they left off? So there's been an evolution of this defense, and they finally kind of found the groove.
Finally is the proper word. It can't take half a season. I mean, you just can't. You can't sacrifice half a season and find answers.
The first half of the season was not their fault.
I know, but they weren't playing. They were playing fine. Sometimes they were playing well, but they weren't dominating like they have the last. And once in a while, you got to do that.
So your standard is dominance.
Once in a while, yeah. Once in a while, if they've shown it the last few weeks that they can at times dominate offense. They
dominant against the Ravens, dominant against the Panthers. That's
all of a sudden they felt comfortable. The coaches felt comfortable against the Ravens. We're going to be blitzing. We're going to be blitzing like crazy, okay? And they'd done it here and there, but that night it became the defining, and obviously for a reason what they saw against Baltimore. But now the stat is 40% of the time they're blitzing. So I mean they obviously got into a comfort of we're ready to unleash what everybody's comfortable with.
They started, their cornerbacks finally got healthy enough and battling the groin strains for a month, and the safety stopped making mistakes and breakdowns. And, do you feel comfortable blitzing when your secondary is kind of iffy? I mean,
Tom Brady was happy to see it.
That's Tom Brady, not the standard.
All right, Omar, 305 Greg asked, do you think Philip Lindsay is about to take Myles Gaskin's starting job? And he adds, I do.
There's something to this coaching staff and Myles Gaskin. And, I think there's an obsession that they won't let go. So I expect it to be very hard for Philip Lindsay to take Myles Gaskin's job. Not to say that he doesn't deserve it, but Philip Lindsay, throughout his career, he's been a Pro Bowler once, 4.6 yards per carry average on 596 attempts, 20 touchdowns in his 4-year career. He's got a bigger and better resume than anybody else on this roster. The question is, how long is it going to take him to learn the playbook? We heard that he went through a tremendous crash course from the time he got here last week to where he is now. And he is really diligently working hard to have his role expanded. I expect it to be expanded. Do I expect him to now become the lead back for the Miami Dolphins? Probably not.
Look, there's room for both. There's room for both in this offense, okay? And whoever gets a hot hand that day, he's going to come out and get the ball more. But the way the NFL is structured, the way this offense is structured, you need not only need two backs, you want two backs to ride a hot hand, or if someone gets hurt, or this particular style of play is working against the defense. So I don't think that's really an issue who starts. They got two decent backs, productive backs.
There are two roles: the first down back, who basically is the guy who makes the RPO work, and then there's the third down back, whose guy is primarily responsible for pass protection and maybe catching passes out the backfield. And Philip Lindsay's shown he can do all of those jobs. I'm not necessarily certain Myles Gaskin has shown he can do that third down role. Now, some people think that would be ideal for him, but you kind of got to pass protect to serve that role, and that's not one of the strengths of his game. Neither Salvon Ahmed. So
here's what we do know: when you're in the latter half of the season, you're bringing up running backs without really injuries involved. It tells you there's some roster organizational problems there. Okay, and no great surprise when you saw what's been going on with the running game.
How about you keep devaluing the position, baby? Let's start there. Al C asks, the Giants are averaging 266 total yards per game in the last 5 games, which they have a 3-2 record. Not bad. What are they doing that poses a serious threat against the fans? Well, this question actually made me do some statistical studying, which I love. I love stats before the era of analytics. Giants are protecting the quarterback quite well, despite what Dave Hyde wants to say. 5.9 sack rate, which, the league's average is 6.4% of passing plays are sacked. They are above average. Giants score touchdowns at 43% rate, whereas the league is averaging 59% rate. So that means, and scoring touchdowns in the red zone, that means they're not on par with their red zone execution. So this is really an opportunity where if you can tighten up your red zone play, you can limit them to 3 points instead of 7. That could definitely help you. And they struggle on third downs. So that's the ideal opportunity to apply the blitzes and the amoeba defense. They're converting 36% of third downs, where the league average is 40%. Defensively, let's flip it. They're only allowing 38%. So that means you got to be sharper, crisper when it comes to red zone execution. And they're allowing 52% of their red zone opportunities to turn into touchdowns defensively. So that means that you're going to have to be bulleting in passes or have a really great game plan for red zone execution. So to me, this game is totally on the coaches.
Yeah, look, you talk red zone defense for the Dolphins. They're 5th in the league. So you have a bad red zone offense against a good red zone defense. Again, this game is set up for me. You look at, they've been struggling on offense to the point they fired their offensive coordinator a couple weeks ago. Okay, they might not have their starting quarterback. Their offensive line, we'll see. All reports are it's bad. Okay,
Saquon Barkley's playing on one leg.
They're 25th in points in the league. Okay, they don't score a lot of points to begin with. Then you throw
like the Dolphins score a lot of points.
This is a game where the Dolphin defense, the way they're playing in the last month, should dominate. It should dominate this Giants offense. So, that's where can the Dolphins lose the game? The Giants have a pretty good defense, a respectable defense. Not great, but they're. Teams aren't scoring. Philadelphia scored 10 points last week against them. So that's where you're looking. Where can the Dolphins lose the game? That's there. I don't know what the over/under is, but probably take the under on this one.
Let's get to our final question for the show, and we will take X's and Omar overtime questions. I said it on Twitter, and I'll do it. We'll address a couple. What's the Dolphin receiver plan going into the 2020 season? We touched on this a little bit earlier. Dave, what do you do at receiver?
Here's the shuffle. I start over, and I say, no, I mean, obviously Jalen Waddle. Gesicki's going to be a question. Okay, do you franchise him for $10 million? I'm not sure this regime values Mike Gesicki. Okay, you can tell. Look, when they go out and they get a Hunter Long, and the fact that this roster is full of tight ends tells you, okay, we want someone. We think Hunter Long can be a step above. Okay, and he hasn't been this rookie year. We'll see year 2, but the point is they're going out to replace somebody. okay, and Durham Smythe maybe, and Gesicki. Durham Smythe has caught the ball better this year than certainly.
Yeah, 25 receptions for 253 yards. It's okay.
I'm not going crazy with it, but the receiving core, you're ready to start all over. And now I'm not saying the fifth and the sixth guy can't be, but if you're looking, we're back to Jeff Ireland. I'm looking for. I've got some 4, 5s, and 6s, but I'm looking for 1, 2s, and 3s right now. Okay, you got really, or a 1.5 in Jalen Waddle, but it's you need to have guys you can count on Sunday are going to be there. You knew coming when you put this receiving core together, there was a great fear that any two of them at any week are not going to be there. It just so happens it's more. So, I mean, let's start over.
Yeah, I right now, I think the biggest fear is that they would go out and they would sign Kenny Galladay, who is Dolphins going to see him this week. You know, the Giants went out there and they signed the former Lions starter to a 4-year, $72 million contract, gave him $40 million guaranteed. He's one of the biggest hits in free agency. Yet he's contributed only 23 receptions for 72 yards, no touchdowns. So there's a huge risk factor. Look at look at Will Fuller. There's a huge risk factor associated with wide receivers, moving him into a different offense, especially one that they're not familiar with. But I think there are going to be some talented players out there like Allen Robinson, like Mike Williams, like Chris Goodwin, like Jamison Crowder. Even the Sammy Watkins, Zay Jones, Odell Beckham Jr., who's, Brian Flores said we're interested when he was going to be waived. And you got to add somebody that Tua can rely on other than Jalen Waddle. And, not just in free agency, but the draft. You got to take the same approach that you took this offseason, where you signed a big name free agent, you drafted a player early. You kind of got to do it again and hope that, maybe you keep Devontae Parker and he can give you 9 games as a number 3, or hope that Preston Williams grows up and matures and learns an offense and is able to be reliable and contribute. But the Albert Wilsons, the Allen Hearns, I kind of agree with you, Dave. You just and start all over. All right, Dave, it's prediction time before we get into the X's and Omar overtime questions. Where are you leaning this week, Dave?
This is a New York doubleheader, and what a perfect time for the Dolphins. You got the Giants at home, followed by the Jets at home, and this should be a sweep for the Dolphins, and it starts 23-10. I think that, as I've said, this is a game the Dolphin defense puts its clamps on the Giants offense for 3 hours and doesn't let go.
Yeah, I'm a 21-17 Dolphins win. The way this defense is playing, and I think only an injury can derail them. I think they're going to give this offense a chance. Tua in the RPO is working very well. Only thing that can mess this all up, Dave, is the offensive line. And we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Let's get into some X's and Omar overtime questions. One question was, how long is Parker hurt again? Parker's trying it this week. We'll see. We know what happens. Parker tries the hamstring. He runs it too hard, and then he regresses. So you never know with Devontae Parker. With this 2021 draft class coming on so strong, what are your top 5 draft picks from this Chris Greer, Brian Flores era? That's an interesting question, Dave.
Wow. That's first one. Well, are we talking what are we talking right now, or?
Yeah, 3-year run. They've had a 3-year run. You're top.
Well, I mean, for what he's done, and look, Jalen Waddle would be the number 1. Okay, producer. Javon Holland would be number 2, I think, right now. Christian Wilkins, 3 or Javon or Jalen Phillips, depending on whether we're talking now or.
How quickly you forget Raekwon Davis.
Oh, Raekwon Davis, you're right. Raekwon Davis. So my last 3 would be those defensive linemen. In any order you want them. But what we're leaving out right now is the 2020 draft.
Except for Raekwon Davis, but yeah,
the first 3.
Brandon Jones too. Brandon Jones. You gotta get.
He's not my top 5, but he's certainly a good pick.
Yeah. Peace Be Trill asks, if Miami reaches 10 wins, 10 wins? How should we address those 7 losses in the offseason?
Don't, have a better plan coming out of training camp. I mean, again, the offense was such a mess coming out of training camp. All right. I mean, the offensive line.
I don't know if they were.
Why in game 4 did they say, well, okay, we're going to have to change things, and Fry's not calling the plays anymore. We're going
Remember
back.
The first week they didn't even have Austin Jackson because he tested positive for COVID. I don't think they were that bad the first week, and I certainly don't think they were bad.
Coming out of training camp, the first month of the season, the offense was bad. It was. Yeah,
well, the offense was led by Jacoby Brissett too. So.
Jacoby Brissett put up 30 points in Las Vegas, right? Something like that. What was the?
28.
Okay, so I mean, but they had. Everybody saw the problems on offense. Starting, you were the loudest saying at Omar training camp. Okay, you can't have these glaring deficiencies on any team, but certainly like that, where you got 5 questions across the board.
Yeah. What is one Ted D. Alicio asks, what is one defensive change you would make to raise the play to the next level?
Well, the one would be, I mean, and I like Landon Roberts. I mean, I like some of the things he's done. But if you're asking where's the next dynamic player, if you're not going to get in any NFL team, you either want a dynamic cornerback or a dynamic pass rusher. At this point, it's almost like a dynamic middle linebacker is what they need. That'd be really. Now the question to me and going into this offseason is, what are they going to do with Byron Jones? Okay, contractually.
They can't. He's guaranteed.
Yeah,
He's guaranteed.
I think, and getting ahead of myself, I thought this was the year that they loosen up on.
No, he's guaranteed money. So not that hasn't stopped them from dumping other players, because they kind of have. But I don't think I don't know what this obsession with Byron Jones is. And same thing with Xavier Howard. People are like, oh, they're giving up touchdowns. What do you think cornerbacks do? Like, the whole game is designed and set up for them to fail.
Yeah, they're as good as you can. They're playing well. Okay,
they are what's allowing you to play the style of defense that you're like, oh, we gotta be in this amoeba defense. We gotta be aggressive. We gotta blitz. We gotta attack the quarterback. We gotta come at the quarterback 40% of the time. Like, you do realize that it's the 2 really good cornerbacks that are allowing you to play that style.
Well, and this is the Belichick invest at the back end of your defense. And that's the style Brian Flores has gone. And you see why, as this defense has developed, you see why having 2 covered cornerbacks, what they can allow the rest of the defense to do.
Yeah. Well, Dave, it's always a pleasure to have you here on X's and Omar. We will see you again next Wednesday at noon. You can find X's and Omar on any place you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify. Also, you can find it on the Sun Sentinel's website on the sports pages. The podcast is usually up the next day, so you can have it on your morning ride to work. Always look forward to talking to you. See you next week.